Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of MMA from London to LA. Will Manel Kape's next fight be for the championship? And the boogeyman of 205 is going to be taking on Alex Pereira for the World Championship. Will it be rinse and repeat for the champion, or will there be a sting in the tail by the Dagestan fighter? Sit back, relax. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Callum, and I'm joined by the MMA professor, the one, the only Colin Crandall. How are you doing, bro?
Doing very well, bro. So glad to be here working with you, as always, covering MMA all the way from London to LA.
Indeed. And there are some great stuff for us to talk about. Firstly, the UFC fight card that was on over the weekend where Manel Kape managed to get a third round stoppage. I believe it was third round.
So.
Yes, correct. Third round stoppage versus Asu Almabayev. A little bit of controversy around it. A couple of eye pokes from Manel Kape. However, he did look like he was just too fast, too slick, and his takedown defense was too much for Asu. The question is, though, he's called for it. A couple of people in the MMA community have called for it. Is the Starboy's next fight going to be for the world title, in your opinion, or should it be for the world title?
I think it should be. I think there was some controversy in the stoppage, but still, Kape was looking great. Like I like to say, someone call the cops. Manel is in the house, lighting people up. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it is definitely a fact that he is getting better and his star is just ascending. And I think we'd be talking about against Pantoja, for the title.
Yeah, that was his first fight in the organization.
It was indeed, right? And he lost that one, of course.
Yeah.
But he is much better. Kape has improved tremendously. But before we continue, I wanted to say everyone watching must know that this is officially the favorite podcast of Scotland Yard. All the men and women over in the yard are quite excited when we come out with a new episode of MMA from London to LA. And
love it.
Yep, they do. And as of recent, Callum Sanderson has replaced Gareth Davies as the #1 favorite British MMA journalist of King Charles himself. And so I think the King likes me a lot as well, but Callum is preferred since he's British.
I'm the favorite.
And so you know what I mean? Now we got King Charles and Scotland Yard watching here. What more can we ask, right?
Indeed. I'm gonna go against you here, Colin. We don't often disagree. I think Manel Kape's brilliant. He's absolutely fantastic. The reason why I don't know if the next fight for him should be a title shot, though, he's not beaten anyone in the top 5. He's not beaten anyone above him. He hasn't beaten, he's not fought Tatsu Taira.
Right.
He's not fought Kai Kara France. He hasn't fought Al-Bazi, Brandon Moreno, or Roy Val. He was meant to fight Roy Val, obviously, but Roy Val pulled out the fight. His biggest and best fight, or against a ranked opponent, again, is Asu Almabayev, who's ranked number 8. If he's ranked number 6 and he beats number 8, does that get you a title shot? And look, I know Pantoja's been running through the division. Obviously, he's beaten Brandon Royval twice. He's beaten Moreno. He's going to fight Kai Kara France next. Then you've got Al-Bazi, who just lost to Moreno, and you've got Tatsu Taira, who lost to Brandon Royval. I would prefer to see Manel Kape fight in a title eliminator, personally.
Yeah, you know what? Now thinking back on it, I agree. Or I was thinking certainly after Kai Kara France, the man who sounds like he should be from France because his name is France, but he's not. He's from New Zealand. And I don't think he's even part French at all, which is interesting. His last name is France.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, I see your point. I do. And so there's some guys up there, and perhaps one more victory would be important. he is still though a very hot prospect, and I could see either or. I mean, I think certainly not replacing, nor would he be asked to replace Kai Kara France. But after that fight, yeah, I wouldn't scream if he didn't get the shot. But my feeling is that he would be at least second on deck, if you will, or very close to the shot. And it was interesting. He had a friend bring in his daughter, and I don't think
Yeah,
at first they were almost like not going to allow it. And I'm like, why the hell
yeah,
would
he
you
wasn't
not?
having it though.
Yeah, oh no, he's like, bring her
He
in here.
doubled down. Yeah,
She was very cute, saying, "Daddy
yeah,
won."
yeah.
It was
Lovely
amazing.
moment, a really lovely moment it was.
Yeah, yeah, and she's probably about the age of your daughter, perhaps, or something. Huh?
No, my daughter's only one, so she would be she's a similar age to probably my oldest.
Okay, like was she 3 maybe or something?
Oh, she's three,
Or
then she's my second
middle?
oldest.
Yeah,
Then
yeah, makes sense.
yeah,
But yeah, very adorable girl. And
yeah,
what
lovely.
is he? What? Let me take a look here. I always am confused at what country he's representing, and it turns
So
out,
he's from Angola, but he also represents Portugal as well.
okay, where Angola is Africa, right?
Yeah, Africa, yeah,
Okay, interesting. And yeah, and a place called Luanda, Angola, but also Portugal.
yeah.
Yeah, cool guy. 31 years old, so right there. Although in the lighter weight classes like that, 31 is usually kind of
Quite old now.
the
Yeah,
getting a bit old. But
yeah,
wow, and he had that really good fight against Mokaev. Other than that, he was on a really good streak, except for the two first UFC fights were absolutely brutal, feeding him to
yeah,
Oja and Matus Nicolau. But he
yeah,
barely lost to Nicolau. Yeah, he's an
yeah,
exciting prospect. He really is. I like him. I like Starboy a lot.
yeah. Same here. I do. As I said, I'd love to see him fight one more fight, but I think he could be a breath of fresh air for the division as well.
Indeed.
Um, Want to speak about two more fights in this card before we move on to UFC 313. The co-main event: Cody Brundage versus believe it was
Julian, the
Julian
Cuban Missile
Marquez.
Crisis,
Yeah, the
Marquez.
Cuban Missile Crisis. What a name!
Yeah.
What a fight that was. They used to be training partners, and they both said they know each other really well. Again, is there a little controversy here? So they're having a tear up. Julian Marquez gets Brundage hurt. Then Brundage hurts him. Both of them lose their mouthpieces. The ref steps in to give them their mouthpieces as they're sort of trading. And then when that happens, Cody Brundage gets the upper hand, gets the finish. Do you think obviously the first thing is fighter health? Obviously, always. Do
Yes.
you think the referee made the right decision stepping in when he stepped in though to give them the mouthpieces? Because it looked like Julian Marquez was a little bit more in the ascendancy than Brundage, and that little 3 seconds gave Brundage that little bit of time he needed just to gather himself and then go forward.
Indeed, I think you're right. I think it was a not the best refereeing. Mark Smith is a veteran referee. He's been around
Yeah,
for quite a
quality
while.
referee, by the way.
Yeah, he's a good ref. But yeah, that was unfortunate. That definitely turned the tables. And this was a big fight that both of them needed to win, especially Marquez. Brundage is far younger at 30 years old. I think Marquez is more like 37 or 8. Let me take a look here. 34. So not as old as I thought, but still that was very, man, that's 4 losses in a row for Marquez.
Yeah,
I mean,
tough, isn't it?
he could very well be cut. I sure hope he isn't. But yeah, that was unfortunate. I think that one, and also not to go back on it, but the Kape fight was stopped a little bit prematurely as well.
Yeah,
Although it was interesting that after what turned out to be kind of was an accidental eye poke, Almabayev was giving the timeout sign, probably
yeah,
also because his language skills in English, I think, are not that good. And it's
yeah,
unfortunate because the referee, I don't think was looking as he was going like that, and B, there's no timeout signal as in like American
yeah,
football
yeah,
or whatever. And if he had been able in English to say, "Hey, I just got poked in the eye,"
yeah, yeah.
possibly the ref might have come over and said, "Okay, well, let me sort this out," right? But anyway, still not taking away from Kape. But yeah, a
Mm,
couple of referees errors in last night's card, in my opinion. Yeah.
yeah, agreed. Again, really good card. The other fight I wanted to mention was for me the fight of the night, which was Hatparas versus Rivovic.
Yes.
It's funny, we were speaking just as this fight started, and we were like, yeah, let's go watch this fight. Bro, I was glued to the
Yeah. Yeah.
screen.
Me too. It was
Like,
fire. That fight was
what
fire.
a fight that was. Like, wow, they
Man.
just Ribovic has got such a chin. Obviously, we saw him at UFC, the Sphere at UFC.
Against Zellhuber, Daniel beating
Yeah, that
Zellhuber.
fight. Oh, it was a brutal, brilliant fight.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I mean, this fight was. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but Haqparast, he reminds me of a smaller version of a prime Kelvin Gastelum.
Yes, looks very much like it. They trained together at King's for several years.
Yeah, you can tell the style of that southpaw and the way they put their combinations together. It's never just one punch. There's always a couple of punches and then maybe a kick on the end of it. They both hurt each other. I agreed with the decision. I had it 2-1 for Haqparast, but I mean, fight of the night, and I think those two they've got to be on a main card on a pay-per-view for the next fight because they both put on bangers every time they fight.
Absolutely, and they're both just barely into their prime. 28 years old for Ribovic, 29 years old for Haqparast. Haqparast a lot more UFC experience, but then some more losses with a record of 18-5 with 10 KOs. Ribovic has a record of 14 and only 2 losses now with 7 KOs. Fight could have gone either way. Brilliant performance by both. I do believe they got the bonus of the night, and well deserved. At least I hope they did. And obviously they're not going to run it back right away, but then I wouldn't mind if they did. But I think both men are looking very good to win in their next fight, depending on who they put them up against. But both guys are part of the future of the lightweight division, without a doubt. Very impressed and excited about that fight and how it went. Tremendous effort by both men.
Yeah, definitely. I really hope they get matched up well for their next fight and they get some spotlight because I know at main events on the pay-per-view cards, they tend to throw in one fight on there that have 2 fighters with lesser known names to try and just give them that spotlight. I'm hoping them to get the rub of the green in one of the future pay-per-views because they deserve it. After putting on a fight like that, they absolutely deserve it.
Indeed, brilliant like you guys would say in England. Yeah, hopefully they'll get that. The promoters get that sorted.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Right, let's move on to the card that is upcoming. The UFC 313 card is happening this weekend, headlined by probably the most active champion and probably the most loved champion at the moment in Alex Pereira, going up against someone that everyone believes could be his arch nemesis in Ankalaev. You've got Justin Gaethje, who was originally meant to be taking on Dan Hooker, going up against Rafael Fiziev in their second fight. Rafael Fiziev coming back off a knee injury. You've got Jalen Turner going up against Bahamondes. Amanda Lemos versus Lucindo, which would be a really good fight, and King Green going up against Mauricio Ruffi, which I think is a sleeper fight of the main card. Looking at the prelims as well, we've also got Curtis Blaydes versus Kuniev. I'm surprised that's not on the main card personally. Probably should be on the main card in my opinion.
Indeed.
I just want to start with Curtis Blaydes and Kuniev. Curtis Blaydes' last fight was against our very own Tom Aspinall, and he was stopped pretty early, but Tom Aspinall does that to everyone.
Yep.
How important is this fight for Curtis Blaydes in your opinion to try and get back on the horse and try and finally accomplish a title fight?
Extremely important. In all honesty, I wouldn't say that his team should put any additional pressure on him, but Curtis is a veteran, and this fight is absolutely pivotal. He can't lose to a UFC debuter in Kuniev, even though Kuniev is 12-2. He basically, other than 2 PFL fights and 1 Contender Series fight, he's basically been fighting. He fought at Eagle FC a couple times, and then various places in Europe. He is more of a striker than a grappler, but out of Dagestan, so he's got to have some grappling for sure.
Yeah.
Curtis needs to win this and look good doing it. Curtis has had a couple tough losses in Aspinall and Pavlovich. Between there, had the 1 win off an injury over Aspinall. Did beat Jailton Alameda, which is a really good win. I had a chance to speak directly to. Yep, I had a chance to speak directly to Jailton at the post-fight press conference at 311. He's a cool guy, very, very good sense of humor, and really good, real talent. This one is probably going to be somewhat competitive because of how hard the Dagestani is going to fight, making his debut. But let me take a quick look at best fight odds here. They should make it about 3-1 Blades, and I'm curious to see if they're not going to do that off of a loss. Let me take a look here. And where is that? Let's take a look here. And there we go, Curtis Blades. And yes, indeed, yeah, they've got him at about a 3-1 favorite. Curtis really should. He has to win this fight.
Yeah.
Curtis is a really, really good fighter. He's 34 years old. As a heavyweight, though, that's not that old. That's
Yeah.
perhaps come around
Yeah.
to maybe near the end of your prime. But then a lot of fighters go to their mid-late 30s. Curtis is an athletic guy, better wrestler than striker, but a decent striker. His only
Yeah.
losses,
Yeah.
it has. And his only losses in the last 7 years have been to Francis Ngannou,
Twice.
Derek Lewis, who caught him. And Derek
Yeah.
Lewis has dynamite in his hands.
Yeah. He catches everyone that goes to
Yep,
sleep.
right.
Yeah.
Sergey Pavlovich, who catches most people. And
Yeah.
then Tom Aspinall. He has great wins over Aspinall, although it was by injury.
Yeah.
Jailton Almeida, Yarzinho Rosenstrike. He beat Alexander Volkov. Yeah, he's a really good guy, Curtis. I'm going to reach out to him,
Yeah.
see if we can talk to him possibly.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, it would. Although this is fight week, but still, and yeah, he should win this. It's very important. He needs to win this, and if he wins this, then still he'll be up there in talks, even if on the outside, but still up there. If not, then he won't, and it's going to be going to the drawing board if that.
Yeah, I look at Curtis and I always think he's always one fight away from fighting for the belt. If you're looking at the ranking, he's currently number 5. Obviously, you said Pavlovich is beating him. Volkov,
He beat Volkov. He beat Volkov.
He's never fought Cyril Gane. He's lost to Aspinall recently, and then John Jones is the champion. We expect Aspinall to fight John Jones. Hopefully, if not, then it looks like it'll be Cyril Gane. If Curtis Blades is able to get this victory, then surely a fight against Volkov makes sense. I personally think he should have been fighting Cyril Gane a little while ago, and I think the UFC have done a good job of avoiding that fight because I think they know it favors Curtis Blades and they want to keep Cyril Gane's powder dry. But
right.
I think if Curtis Blades is able to get the win here, I think him versus Volkov could be a really good fight, and then that could potentially line him up for a title fight, depending on who has the belt and what fights are made in and around that time. So
absolutely, Curtis is a really nice guy. You know what I mean? And I'd love to see him do well. And I'm always cheering for USA here, and and he's a really good dude. So I'd like to see that, but I'd like to see an impressive performance here. And I think he's going to be doing. I think Curtis is going to go out there to finish this guy. And I think he should, and I think he will, and I think he'll be in the thick of things. Very important fight, though, indeed.
Agreed. Next fight. So the fight that opens up the main card, King Green, also known as Bobby Green, going up against Mauricio Ruffi from the Fighting Nerds. I love this fight. Love this fight. Two stand-up fighters. What a way to kick off the main card. Bobby Green, with all the experience in the world, he's a fighter that goes out on his shield. He's either going to piece you up or potentially get a stoppage, or he's going to probably get stopped himself. And Ruffi is just going from strength to strength. Only one loss in his career, and since he's come into the UFC, just been on an absolute tear. How do you see this fight going?
So he has a 6-fight win streak. He hasn't lost in almost 6 years in the UFC. Yep, notable wins against Jamie Malarkey on top, or Lion Top, if you don't pronounce it properly. I think it's the on top. And Bobby, and so he is 28 years old. Wow, Bobby is 40, I think, or close, isn't he?
Yeah.
Let's take a look. Bobby is 38. So a 10-year age difference. I mean, Bobby is going to be way more crafty, way more experienced. He got caught by Paddy Pimblett. I mean, he is slowing down a bit for sure, but maybe not a lot. And he is such a talented. He's really a good, very technically sound fighter, very composed, confident. I'd be interested to see what the odds are. I have a feeling they should make maybe this fight fairly close in odds, and indeed they are not. Wow.
I think
It's
Ruffy's going to be the favorite, right?
a 4-1 favorite. In fact, you've
Wow.
got to lay nearly 5-1 odds to have a winning money on Roofy, and then you've got to you're getting nearly plus 400 and over that on some books. Yeah, I think there's definite value in green. I don't think this is going to be a wipeout by any means. I don't understand
Yeah.
what they're thinking. I mean, Roofy is tough out of Brazil, but just basically off of beating Malarkey and Yontop, you're going to think he smashes the Bobby Green. I think some of the people
Yeah.
making these odds are really thinking that Bobby is done, and I don't see that. Bobby did take a bit of a beating. It's interesting. Bobby put a terrible beating on Jim Miller, and then pretty much kind of, right, and then kind of got
Yeah.
owned only 3 months
Yeah.
later.
By
Although, you
Jaden's
know
turn.
what? At 38 years old, making him fight 3 months after the Jim Miller fight, even though he was the hammer and not the nail, still Miller is a
Yeah.
gritty, tough guy. That I think was a bit unkind. I think to make a nearly 40-year-old fighter fight 3 months later, that might have been partly, some of his reasoning for why he lost up to Pimblett. I
Yeah.
mean, in all honesty, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was done on purpose. They were thinking, okay, we really don't want to maybe risk Pimblett losing, so let's put a not yet recovered 38-year-old Bobby
Yeah.
Green in this fight. Whichever. I like Patty, but yeah, I think Green is live here. He could win. I mean, if it's a close fight, they're going to give it to Roofy. The
Yeah.
judges
Yeah.
just seem to always know who the A side is, although it seems like it's
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
a bit better this year than previous years. But
Yeah. Let's not speak too
yeah.
soon.
Well, yes, true. Yeah, exactly. I think
Yeah.
Bobby could win this fight, but I wouldn't put the house on it, but certainly wouldn't lay that kind of chalk from a gambling perspective on Roofy. Maybe Roofy used to be that date, ape drug to take
Yeah.
out and so I don't know, maybe someone puts a roofie in the water of one of them and someone wins. I don't know. Anyway, silliness. Nonetheless, Callum, I have to say, so glad to have you because you guys must know Callum Sanderson has the wrestling of Cale Sanderson. He has a striking of a young Anderson Silva, John Jones. He has the submissions of a Fabricio Verdum and Damian Maya. Handsome like a movie star with the greatest knowledge of MMA in England in the history of the country. So I am quite honored to be here with this young man.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Next fight on the card is Amanda Lemos going up against Lucindo. Lemos, I'm trying to think of her last fight. So Lemos,
I'll pull it up. Lemos's last fight, or Lemos, let's just squeeze the
Lemos,
Lemos, right?
yes.
Yep, and make Lemo shade. Her last fight is against Verna Jandiroba, who did submit her by armbar,
Yeah.
and that was this last July. So she's taken a good
She
amount of
did
time
beat
off.
Mackenzie Dern
Before
before
that,
that
she
as well.
did be
Yeah.
turned, right, bro? Yeah. Whereas, and she's 37. Lucindo is, I think, like 23. Yeah. Wow. 14-year age difference.
Massive age difference
Yeah.
there.
Lucindo's on a good 4-fight win streak after losing her
Yeah.
debut in a very tough very tough fight against the then streaking Yasmin Harigi. And since
Yeah.
then, she's beaten Brogan Walker, Polyana Viana, Carolina Kowalkiewicz, and
Marina
then the
Rodriguez.
split decision against Marina Rodriguez, right? So
Yeah. She's
there
on an upward trajectory.
she is
At
this
23 as well. That's
yeah,
a massive scalp.
it is, and they've got her as a slight favorite, like 1.4 to 1 favorite against Lemos. What do you think on this one? This is they're similar style fighters, almost very
Yeah.
tenacious, but one is much older and the other one is past their prime by several years, and the other is before her prime by several years.
Yeah, I think I've got Lucindo here, if I'm going to be honest. I think her being the younger fighter and sort of getting into her groove now, I think this fight favors her. And as you said, similar styles. I think she's slightly quicker than Lemos as well. Got a slight reach advantage, only 1 inch. But again, this is a game of inches and centimeters. I think she could get the win here. I don't expect her to stop Amanda Lemos, but I think she squeezed out a decision victory.
I think you could be right. Lemo should come in with her Charles Oliveira blonde hair. That might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you or me were blonde, which would it look more suitable on? Do you think?
I can try it one day. We'll see.
You got to do it. I think you might be the better looking with the blonde. I think I would look a bit silly as a blonde. There was one time my wife, 18, 17 years ago, had me go to her hairstylist and said, he's going to do me up. And I would say, I really don't need to. And she said, oh, come on. Since he's done my hair, he'll do yours at like a discount. I was all right. And
Yeah.
literally he made it like a copper color, like blondish red. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, this is not what I was expecting. I didn't, I thought maybe he'd color out some of the gray, which wasn't even that much back then.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm a blonde. And after about a couple of weeks, I couldn't stand it anymore. I was like, I can't, this is too silly, you know? But yeah, I don't think I'll go to back
I
to that
think
at this stage.
I think the people might want to see pictures of that, Colin.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I took any then. It would have been funny to see. But if not, I guess I could AI it. But then I don't know if that would do it justice. But nonetheless, so where are we? The next fight is going to be above that.
Jalen
Sorry to
Turner.
jump ahead. The co-main Jalen Turner, who I did interview a couple times during the pandemic, against Ignacio Bahamondes. What do you think? The Tarantula is only 29, man.
Yeah, I
Just
know.
in like the early part of his prime for a lightweight. I like him so much. And but he did come off that loss versus Moicano and in April, so nearly a year off. But at 29, that's not a bad thing. Bahamondes is going to be younger, even at 27, coming off 2 wins in a row against Christos Giagos and Manuel Torres. Manuel Torres, is that who I'm thinking he is? Some of our UFC fighters' names are somewhat similar. And Manuel
Yeah,
Torres, he is. Yeah, he was on a streak until Bahamondes beat him. He was on a
yeah.
6-fight win streak with 3 of them in the UFC, all by finish. And Bahamondes finished him. This is a tough one. Let's take a look at the odds, and I'll throw it to you to break down first. But the odds in this fight have Bahamondes wow, is that a middle? Look at this. Oh, but they're both minus. Okay, so check this out. This is rare. On DraftKings, you are getting Bahamondes as a slight favorite, minus 112, and Jalen Turner minus 108. But everywhere else, not everywhere else, but on one other book, you're having Jalen as the favorite. But if they were both plus money, then you've got a middle. You bet both,
Okay.
and either way you win. But the books are very careful to not. They don't copy what each other does, but it almost seems like they're
Yeah.
making sure to avoid that, right?
Okay.
But still, nonetheless, you could bet if you go to books, line shopping, you actually can get both of them as a slight favorite. I think though on more of the books, the slight favorite on more of the books is actually Bahamondes, but on one of the books has Turner as a slight favorite. Very close. So what do you think? It's a good matchup, huh?
Yeah, I think it's a big jump up for Bahamondes, if I'm going to be honest. Jalen Turner's been in
Yeah.
with some of the best fighters in the world. And when Jalen's on, because of his length and his range, he's so hard to deal with. I've got Jalen here. Jalen Turner is a fighter I look at and I think when he puts it all together, he could be a champion. Just given his size,
Yeah.
his reach,
Yes.
length, his power as well. I think as long as he stays switched on, I think he's one of the most dangerous fighters in that division. And I think I've got him winning by stoppage.
Yeah, I think you could be right. I like him, and Jalen has paid his dues. He's a really good dude. The
Yeah,
tarantula, he's got that tarantula power, and
yeah, he really is.
so I think you're right. I think and him being a slight dog or just a slight favorite, depending on where you wager, I would wager on Jalen Turner. I wouldn't bet the house because Bahamondes is tough, but I do think you're right. I do think the experience advantage and Jalen just having paid his dues a lot longer in the UFC. He's 14-8, so 22 total fights, with many of them in the UFC. Bahamondes is 16-5, so only one less fight, but only 4 of his 5. No, he actually has 7 fights already in the UFC for Bahamondes, and he's 5-2, losing to John Makdessi barely by a split decision, and Ludovic Klein by a decision. But I think a Turner has almost double those fights. But yeah, I like Jalen, and the man behind is La Huala is from Chile, and of course Jalen Turner representing USA, San Bernardino, California too, Southern Cal. So I'm going for torrential power, 6'3", 156 pounds. So that's
Crazy.
that's just barely over like 10.5 stone or something, right? Or
Yeah.
10.2, and at 6'3".
Yeah.
So he's an anomaly. But yeah, I got
Yeah.
Turner. Love to see a tarantula do this and do it impressively.
Yeah, same here. Co-main event now. It was meant to be Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje, one of the rare fights we actually haven't seen at 155. However, Dan Hooker pulls out of the fight, I believe, with a broken hand, and in steps the returning Rafael Fiziev, whose last fight ended via stoppage because of a torn ACL, and he makes his return against the man who beat him in London the last time they fought, and that is Justin Gaethje, who's coming off the back of a brutal loss to Max Blessed Holloway. Confession here, I actually had Rafael Fiziev win the first fight between the two.
That's reasonable.
I had him win
It was
2-1. I
quite
don't think it was
close.
a robbery. I don't think it
No,
was a robbery, but I
but it was
had him
quite
win
close.
two
Yeah,
rounds to one.
I think I was cheering for Gaethje so much, having had interviewed him a couple times
Yeah.
as I had, that I wasn't really maybe watching it that close. I just wanted Gaethje to get the win, but I do think that he was. I do remember Gaethje was the underdog. I'm pretty sure, and he
Mm.
came through. Fiziev's excuse for that loss that recently could have been no, the one in England was that they put in a bit too much vinegar in his fish and chips that he got over there, and it was too much for him.
You
I
get a
had to.
good back.
Yep, he didn't get the good. The bit of the vinegar may have been rancid. I don't know, but they don't allow that too often. But anyway, I love my friends in England and the UK, and so you guys, I'm always at fish and chips. Callum always is so good to allow me to throw that out there. I think a
It's a
bunch of fish and
pleasure.
chips. Yeah, thank you, bro. Yeah, this is gonna be a good fight. Gaethje is the elder here. Fiziev, 31 years old, 15 fights only, and he's got eight finishes by KO and one by submission. He's only been a pro MMA fighter for just under 10 years. Justin Gaethje having quite a bit more fights, 25-5, 30 fights. This is double the amount of fights. Gaethje with 20 KOs and one submission. Gaethje having been a professional MMA fighter for 14 years, so 4 additional years. I'm cheering Gaethje. I'm cheering USA and Gaethje specifically. He's such a good guy. I think though this is going to be a big ask, or if you will, a big ask, if we're using the King's English. I think that Fiziev is a slight favorite, and he's younger. I think it's a very important fight for both. I think for Gaethje to stay relevant, it's really important at the somewhat of the twilight of his career. Fiziev, though, if he's going to be making any noise, he needs to win this fight.
Yeah.
I'm cheering Gaethje, but I hate to say it. I'm expecting maybe Fiziev wins this, but I'm cheering for Gaethje. How about you? Curious to hear your thoughts.
To be honest, I always hate cheering against Gaethje because he's such a brilliant fighter and he's so exciting, and he gives his, when you get fighters who just give absolutely everything every single fight, he leaves nothing in that cage, and he always says he leaves a part of himself in there every time he goes in there, and as a fan you have to do nothing but appreciate that. That being said, Rafael Fiziev coming back from a knee injury, going straight into a fight with Gaethje is a tough ask because Gaethje's forward pressure and just pressure in general is brutal, and plus he's already beaten him. Fiziev usually starts fast and then starts to slow down as the fight goes on. I gotta be honest. I would like Fiziev to win, not because I dislike Gaethje, because I think it would change up and shake up the rankings a little bit. But at the same time, I don't see him getting the job done. I think I've got Gaethje winning this fight, and I think I've got Gaethje. I don't know if he stops him, but I think he gets another decision win. I think this time he makes it look a little bit more comfortable. Do we know if this fight is a 5-round or 3-round fight?
This was, I mean, I would think 3 because it's the co-main event.
And
But
there's no
if it
belt attached to it, so it should be 3, shouldn't
It
it?
should be 3 unless it was originally set as a main event, but it couldn't have been because it was the wait,
Yeah.
was it against Hooker, would that have been the main? If that
No,
was the main,
that'd have been co-main as well. Although
so
I
then,
do think
yeah.
the Hooker fight was 5 rounds or scheduled for 5 rounds.
And but then again, would Fiziev on short notice want to take a
Yeah,
5-round fight?
I
It's,
doubt it.
what, it's hard to say. I'd love it if it were, but I'm having a
Mm,
feeling 3. I'm wishing there was somewhere I could tell, I could see here, but it's not making it clear. But yeah, let's hope 5, but it's possibly 3. Would that change your
yeah.
thoughts either way?
Nah, I still got Gaethje. I think if Gaethje's been training for 5 and he switched to 3, I think he'll have more of a sprinter's mindset as well and know that he can count on his cardio. So big answer for Zeev. I've had an ACL injury and coming back from an ACL is tough, and then
Yeah,
going into fighting is even worse. So yeah, I'm not liking his chances for this one, but it should be a
yeah,
good fight though.
I agree. It should be exciting.
And on to the main event. Part-time Pereira's looked almost invincible since moving up at 205. Only Jan Blachowicz is really giving him any trouble. People have given him trouble in terms of putting up a resistance, but ultimately he's managed to get the victories by a stoppage in all these fights. However, the one thing everyone keeps on saying, he has not fought a grappler. He's not fought a top grappler in Seps Ankalaev. Could he be the man to spoil the party? There is talks of Pereira moving up to heavyweight if he retains and fighting Tom Aspinall potentially, or even fighting Duplessis, or even moving down has been suggested. None of that happens though if he loses his fight. How do you see the main event of 313 going?
My first thought is look at Marab against Sean O'Malley. The difference is I
Mm,
think Sean wasn't really getting a ton of great grappling
yeah,
training in, and Marab is just an outstanding, unique, special grappler
yeah,
to a higher degree than Ankalaev. But and then Poatan has Glover Teixeira and is practicing his grappling, and I would submit that perhaps he's a bit more adept a grappler than Sean O'Malley. However, this fight could go a similar way. Um, I am very curious to see the odds here because they should be pretty close, and they
I think
indeed.
Ankalaev is the favorite.
Ankalaya, you know what? Not in anywhere that I'm looking, but it's quite close.
Okay,
Everywhere I'm looking has just Pereira a smidge more of a favorite, minus 120
okay,
to minus 108. They're both minus money, so it's quite close. I think Ankalaev, there's a lot of pressure on Ankalaev. He's the kind of the redheaded stepchild, if you will, of the
mm,
Eastern Bloc fighters. People are saying all these guys are great. This guy's great. That guy's great. This guy's great. That guy's great. Ankalaev's garbage, and he's the biggest of the Dagestanis, I think.
yeah,
Perhaps there
yeah,
may be some assorted heavyweight that's not well known, but in all honesty, he's the big man, so he's out there prominently. People say his style is boring. He's not that great, and he's the worst of the Dagestanis, and this and that. And so I really do believe he's going to need a little chip on his shoulder to go out there and take care of business here. I think he will. I think he will. I think he will expose Poatan to some extent. His striking is good. He's quick. He's going to be not quite as tall as Poatan, but maybe only 1.5 inches shorter, which is not a
mm,
lot. Um, I just think that the Poatan is going to have to be concerned about the takedown. If you're concerned about the takedown, you can't just throw with impunity.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I would go for Ankalaev. Neither of them are USA, although Ankalaev, sorry, Poatan training. I think in the United States mostly with a lot of
Glover.
American fighters and with
Mm,
Glover. Nothing against that. But I think the UFC would much prefer Poatan wins. But if he
oh,
loses, right,
definitely.
right. But if he loses, then I think he would go up.
Yeah.
I could see a world where he loses to Ankalaev and then goes up and gets flattened by either John Jones or Aspinall. I honestly could see, and then I could actually see him possibly retiring from there. You know what I
Okay.
mean? He's just had this amazing ascension, except for that one blip losing to Izzy. And
Yeah.
otherwise, it's just been this virtually storybook dream of a late in life change in sports and just pretty much owning it. But in a lot of stories like that, you're the hammer until then all of a sudden you're the nail,
Yeah.
right? I think this is not a great matchup for him, and I think Aspinall is even a worse matchup for Poatan.
All right, I agree with all of everything you just said. Although there's something about Alex that he just seems to be able to get the job done. As you said, apart from that blip against Izzy, where I think he got overzealous and almost forgot Izzy had power as well to be able to knock him out.
And he may have
And
been depleted at that weight also a bit.
yeah, that as well. Yeah, I can see a path to victory for Ankalaev if he uses his grappling and everything. But the way Ankalaev is talking, saying that I'm going to stand with him, I'm going to knock him out. I'm like, haven't you watched every other fight that Poatan's been in? I'm hoping that's just mind games and he's just saying that to try and offset his mindset. But if he doesn't incorporate grappling or he doesn't even have a threat of a takedown, he's gonna get stopped because you're not standing with Pereira for 5 rounds without getting touched up.
No, for sure.
That being said, I do think he implements his grappling, but I think he's doing something that's quite smart and that he's only posting stuff of himself having fun. So it seems though he's not really training. I reckon he's one of the hardest trainers in the UFC. And
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think behind the scenes, with someone like Glover, who was an elite grappler himself, especially towards the end of his career, he must be spending hours and hours grappling with Glover to share. And if you're spending that amount of time with someone, your grappling will improve. He just not had a chance to really show it. I think he probably gets taken down, but anytime he's been taken down as well, he's managed to protect himself well on the ground and not take any damage. I think he gets the job done. I think he gets a round 3 or round 4 stoppage against Ankalaev, and I think he cements his legacy as one of the best in the world right now.
Yeah, could very well be. My man Ankalaev is on like an 11 or 12 fight winning streak, having only lost in his first UFC fight in that triangle to Paul Craig when Paul Craig was really on fire with his submissions. But who has he fought that's anywhere near the striker as Poatan? I mean, Volkan Oezdemir has some chops, and Johnny Walker has some chops. Rakic has some chops, but Kudalaba not like Poatan. But yeah, this could go either way. But so your official pick, you do think Pereira comes through on this one?
I do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Maybe because I want Pereira to win, I'm trying to put it into existence as well. But I've got him winning the fight.
I like it. I'm going Ankalaev, but I am excited. I'm going to have some friends over. I wish you were in the UFSA in Los Angeles. One day we will watch something together.
One day.
And then in person one day we'll go and cover an event together. That would be
that'd be amazing.
I'd love that. But yeah, so this should be a good card. Yep. But we're against each other on a couple, with each other on a lot, and great information. I think back and forth as always, bro. Indeed. I appreciate you, Callum.
I appreciate you. Colin, please tell the people where they can find you and support you, bro.
Excellent. So you can find me at Colin Crandall 33 on Twitter. I'll call it X, or if you're Scottish, Twitter. When it was Twitter. You can also reach me as MMA Journalist 1, just the number 1 on Instagram, YouTube, MMA Journalist, and Facebook, Colin Crandall MMA. Which will also show me as the MMA journalist. So I am the MMA journalist and the MMA professor. Last thought, when I was a little kid, I used to go into a restaurant with my family, and the owner had never seen a little kid wearing glasses. And I was like 6 years old, and he would call me professor because I looked quite studious and intelligent with glasses. He had never seen a little child with glasses on. So I'd always say, "Oh, professor, come right in here." Like literally a little kid, 6 years old, a professor. So I think it's good that I've brought that back, and love working with you, Callum. And you guys will visit me. Thank you. You guys want to support my socials? I'll support you back. Like they used to say in this Honey Smacks or Sugar Smacks cereal, give me a smack and I'll smack you back. Support me and I'll support you back. Over to you, Callum. Where can we find you? With all your
you can find me at Callum Sanderson on all platforms, or the Sanderson Show, or Sanderson Show as well. So please do support. Yes, that's another one in the books. Obviously, we'll be back hopefully next week where we can discuss whether Poatan does it again or whether it's new. People, if you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments. Let us know who you think will win the main event of UFC 313 and the co-main event. It's been another episode of MMA from London to LA. Colin, you're an absolute legend, and it's always a pleasure doing this show. People, thank you for watching and listening. Till we see you again. Take care.
Take care. Be well, everyone. Os.